It's been all good flipping the microphone around like you. It took me a while to figure out, but you suggested.
The delay on that was just wild. It took forever for
Yeah.
that to come back to me, like to up upload and then download, and yeah, this took forever. Um, the low latency streaming, man, it's the
Well,
future, but is like,
I was doing a test, or not test. I was just having some fun with Xbox to Mixer. I was playing Celeste last night and trying that out. And I was using my kid's headset plugged into the controller and, a little bit of voiceover stuff or whatever. And it, I had it, so I had the headset on and then I had my laptop there and I was viewing the stream just to see what it, see how it all looked like or whatever. And it looked like the video was working, but I'd say something to the mic, take the headset off and listen. I was like, oh shoot, the audio, something's wrong with the headset. But it was actually like almost instantaneous. Like literally, basically, as I said it, it would be coming out of my computer off the stream, right?
yeah, yes,
Like
that's weird. How is it?
it was that like, and it was I'm not, yeah, it was like a Chrome browser. There's no like special magic connection from my Xbox to Chrome somehow or whatever. Like it was literally like a half a second delay or something. Like it was insane how, because I thought it wasn't working because I'd take the headphones off and there's like waiting for my the echo. And but it was to the point where I could almost like, because the on the Xbox the little widget thing for the like you've got one viewer or no viewers or whatever thing was like an overlay, and there's a way to move it or turn it off, but on the screen it was kept sometimes blocking part of the menu or part of the game, and so I'd actually just look at my laptop and see like what am I
Yeah,
missing in that bottom right corner. I could almost like play off my laptop if I.
yeah. I
That's
have
insane.
done that before. Well, it's like I love having some like people in the chat room to tell me that something's wrong. Like I would
Yeah.
stream. I remember back in the day, we'd stream. We'd go for 45 minutes and then someone would poke in the chat and be like, "You guys are muted." Be like, "Oh yeah?
Oh,
Okay.
thanks. So good.
Well, there goes the video on demand." Like
Speaking of which,
I just that happens sometimes and I'm just like, "Nah, I'm just going to, you know what? Delete. Like I'll just stop streaming midway and then I'll cut it. I'll cut it in the podcast later.
yeah,
I guess it's not worth it."
yeah. Well, this is annoying too. So, like, do I need? I don't need Farrago. Turn off that block. Okay, I'm gonna just start recording here. Can you just say something?
Hello, hello. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Say it again.
One,
Okay.
one. Checking. Two, to who checking.
Discord. If I minimize the window, then it disappears from OBS, eh? Or it locks or freezes. I guess Skype is probably the same. Because if I go away from the window, like if I switch to the good stuff chat for a second, then it's going to just show that window, right? Yeah, you disappear. Must be a way to pop out the window. Turn on screen share. Turn off camera, mute, user settings. Don't need that. Oh, whatever. Or I can go full screen. Yeah, I've got your recording. I may end up forgetting to use it. If you are you going to record yours?
I'll do mine. Turn on this block. I turned on that bloke.
Another block rock and beat. And
Very good.
Tweet.
Very, very good.
Twitch.tv/goodstuff.
Oh yeah, I should probably log on and get some comments going or something. Log on as me. I think I can. Can I just? Can I do like the pop out?
Show me.
Maybe I'll just do
Yeah,
the
there's a way to do that.
Twitch chat. There we go. Pop out. Boink. Got it. I should also look at your face. There we go. Whoop whoop whoop.
Are you you're hot burps these days, right?
I am. I think I'm signed in as Good Stuff though currently.
Oh, no, I'm talking Twitter.
Oh yes, on Twitter. We are we live? Are we actually live? Live?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm signed in as Good Stuff.
Me too. It's weird how that works.
Hmm. Are you the good or the stuff? Which one are you?
I'm definitely stuff.
I feel like I'm stuff too. So we're just stuff.
Stuffy stuff. Oh, yeah, so I can't even go into like I gotta figure out a way. There must be a way to pop out the show and games tab. Remove friend. Like when you, or what? Yeah, whatever. The video's secondary, anyways, right?
Yeah. If it's you and me, it's always secondary.
Who gets the? Let's go with Control Click Cast today. It's not really seen on the thing anyway.
So you were able to hear that car going by?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Just like a low.
There were some helicopters this morning. I'm near an airport, so that's not great. But the walls are finished, and the ceiling is sort of the same ceiling that you have, the like paneled ceiling.
Right.
So in terms of soundproofiness, it's not bad. It's just when you get a helicopter landing in your front yard, that's when the noise gate doesn't work properly.
There's not much to the noise gate there. All right, so let's do this thing. I've got a pizza stop at 5 o'clock, I think.
I need a pizza stop too.
That sounds. It's Friday. It's good.
I am getting noodles today.
It's not quite pizza, but
no, it could be though. You could put them together. Maybe spaghetti pizza. Yeah, something like that. Instead, like sauce and then carbs on carbs. I'd be up for that.
So if I move Discord, you're still okay. Yeah. Okay. Turn off the preview. Go back to here. Bob's your uncle. All right, let's go. Hello and welcome to episode number 126 of your Show Me Your Mic podcast, where we talk all things podcasting. I am Chris, and he is Kyle. Welcome, Kyle.
Hello, Chris. Hello. Good to be back finally in 2019, a year where lots of folks are making podcast predictions, and I've got none.
Well, that's the thing. We did our predictions last episode, episode 125. We covered some, well, not our predictions, I guess. It was other folks' predictions. Mm-hmm. But and so far, I don't think any of them have come true. So I don't know what that says. It's already 2 weeks into this year. Right?
Yeah, it's kind of like, a lot of the scientific discoveries are made in your 20s, and if you're 30 and just getting your PhD and starting to do research, it's already too late, right? Einstein, 20s. Newton, 20s. If we're already in the second week of January now and you haven't already met your podcasting goals for 2019, you may as well just quit. Yeah. I mean, really?
Yeah.
That's the message. If you get anything from this podcast in 2019, don't let that be it. I'm joking.
So you're since last we talked, I think last time you were it looks like you're in a different space. So the video, we stream this show live Fridays if we can, if the technology gods align. And so far they are. Inexplicably, my streaming stuff is just like, it's flatlining, which is a good thing, actually. It's like right at 4,000 kilobits or whatever, where it's supposed to be.
That's
straight
pretty
line,
good.
Right across.
Yeah.
Before 2019. I guess that's one New Year's resolution that's come true is I've improved my streaming quality by doing absolutely nothing, but just hopefully my internet provider, I guess, has done something because I didn't change anything.
Have you heard the rumors of 5G internet going around and like Verizon and AT&T getting on board and saying like, hey, we're going to tackle home-based internet first, and then eventually, as soon as phones support 5G, we'll start to do that. But for the most part, the 5G internet that is like coming from the waves on the earth is just home-based internet. I assume that won't be available on the frozen infrastructure of Canada for a while. But
what's 5G speeds? What's that going to be like?
Apparently, much faster than 4G. Five of them. whatever the G's are. I'm getting 5 of them now.
Okay.
If I'm on it, but not available where I am.
Don't you get
And
like I thought everybody in California got like Google Internet, just like
no,
Google.
I wish.
Isn't that a
Are you
thing?
kidding? I would love that. Google Fiber would be great.
Yeah.
I moved away from the town that they planned to put Google Fiber in like a month before they did it. So
Why would
that's
you?
bad on me. I
Yeah.
know.
That's
It's bad. I should make more moving decisions based on where the internet is, because for the last 4 months, it's been a garbage situation for me. I think the last time I was on the show was I was at my brother's house
yeah.
and they were having their child. They have a
Congratulations,
very
Kenny. If
healthy
you. Yeah.
baby girl, and so yeah, doing very well. Everyone is, and so now I'm at a new, I guess, secret Good Stuff HQ location. It's a garage, so you'll see lots of Garbo behind me.
Have
But
you
we were also
Maria Kondo'd that yet, or?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, I see. Sorry. It's just
No,
a
it's
new Netflix show, Maria Kondo. I think I'm saying that right, where she goes around helping people organize their life. And
got it. I thought I was supposed to maybe split this space with someone named Maria, so it turned into a condo.
uh,
I figured that that wasn't the case, but I have heard a lot about that show, and it is apparently very divisive,
yeah,
and or just kind of overly intense for people, but maybe very binge worthy. I don't know. Netflix is trying to kind of push the boundaries of viral content on the internet with Bird Box and Bumblebees, whatever that was called. So I
Bindle
bum,
Snatch.
bun, yeah, yes,
Something like that.
bundle snatch. Grab the twigs. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Anyways, your new location. That's a
I'm in a new location
Okay.
now, and
and that's you're allowed to you can do that in California, where you can have a garage be like a fifth room or a fourth, I guess, however many, an extra room.
yeah, where it doesn't, it's not
Freeze.
0 degrees all day. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's insulated. The soundproofingness is pretty good. We were talking about before this show. If you want to tune in live, you can twitch.tv/goodstuff_FM. There's a little bit before and after the show usually that is not on the podcast feed, so tune in there, give us a follow, and all the other stuff. You can give us your Twitch. I'm not going to get into it, but just go over there. Yeah, it's pretty okay for now. Everything behind the camera currently is a bunch of boxes,
Yeah.
and it looks really bad. Otherwise, it's a lot of cables that I need to set up, and I just set up just in time to do the show with you today. So
looks like you've got your SM7B. Is that what you're using
yes,
these days? Right, the microphone.
SM7B to a very worn out Rolls mute switch here.
Oof.
You cannot read
Yeah,
I don't know what
take a
state is
beating.
what on that anymore. To a made in Holland Triton Audio Fethead to increase the gain there. To a Focusrite little guy, the smaller version of the one that you have that your monitor is sitting on.
Yeah.
To DBX286S, to the whole
So
stack here.
even with the DBX286, you still need it helps to have the Fed head on there, or you need it.
It gives me so much more room because on the Focusrite I'm using is a garbage one. It's the runs off of bus power version, and the preamps in it are complete garbage. I basically have them all the way down, and so all the juice is coming from my DBX286S, and I'm trying to give it more headroom using the Fed head, so that gain is coming from going into the mic, but coming from the DBX instead of it coming from the actual Focusrite mixer, which is never good.
Yeah, because it's a gain hungry mic, and that's
it is. It can be, and I've used it for a really long time. If you don't want to see my perspective of this microphone, it's got 5 years of just speaking into it, and it's bad news bears.
Yeah,
but
clean your
I'd love to get a new one. Yeah, patreon.com/goodstuff. Get me a microphone that doesn't get me sick every time I put my mouth to it.
We've got a couple of Patreon subscribers. I just got a new one. I don't know the gentleman's. I don't recognize the name. So if you're out there watching, thank you, or listening, thank you for supporting us. And yeah, like Kyle said, patreon.com/goodstuff. Check it out. And
I've got some follow up, Chris,
sure.
from our last show. I know we had talked about today's special and trying to
Right.
figure out like what we want to do with that. And now that Anchor had sort of introduced their new sponsorship model and you can put stuff on there, I tried an experiment for the first week of 2019 to on my own write out a couple of episodes verbatim, sort of like a straight up script of what I would say if I were to bring that show back. And I would say on average, each of them took me maybe an hour and a half without any editing, zero editing. I also didn't record them or release them. This was strictly like writing the script and
Oh,
leaving
okay.
it at that, and seeing sort of the legwork that it took to put that together. I did 3 of them and got super burnt out. If you're trying to put together content every single day that is both interesting, insightful, and truthy, but not a complete rip of a Wikipedia article, that's difficult. That's a full-time job. And
Yeah.
trying to do that every day, I just think is kind of impossible. I'd love still to bring it back, but that work has to be split with somebody. There's no way that like I could do 3 a week. That might be okay, but doing 5 is
Because you said
impossible.
an hour and a half per episode, like to write out the script, or an hour and a half
Yes,
total.
correct. Yeah, hour and a half per episode.
Yeah. For aiming for like a 10-minute ish or what?
5,
5.
honestly,
Yeah.
like 5, and I can show you maybe an example of what that looked like. Let me pull it up here on my Notion document. Today's special.
Because yeah, it
Loading.
almost is harder to. I mean, you're obviously trying to like pare everything down, be concise. Like the old adage of like a shorter talk is much harder to write than a 45-minute talk. But either way, writing a script for something like that is going to take a long time. And if you what was I going to say? If it was more like insert, general conversation about rice here or whatever the topic food conversation was, you could
If
just
it's
riff on
improv,
stuff. Yeah.
yes. If it's improv, I can do it. I could have like 2 bullet points and be ready to go if I had someone to play off of. But when you're trying to be entertaining on your own, you know this.
Yeah.
You host a show called Dailyish that
I
hasn't
used
posted
to.
since October or August. August? I must say August.
Let's just not go there.
But it's super difficult, and unless you're talking about something that you absolutely know like the back of your hand, it's super difficult to do,
Yeah.
and just would be a huge time suck for me. I'm not sure to what I want to do from here, but I think the answer is to go back to kind of the way it was and split the work with someone. The content can be the same, as I've written out here, sort of in my precursor episodes. For the one I sent you is chocolate covered cherry, and I found some really interesting stuff. There's some like 4-hour long ASMR streams on YouTube of people opening chocolate covered cherry
That.
places. Yeah. So it's just really, it's really interesting that it took like actually doing it for me to feel like, nah, not worth it.
I wonder how, like, obviously, we've talked about before, like a show, I can't think of, like, The Daily or whatever, where it's like one guy reading it and recording it, and maybe they have a guest and they have a guest reporter on. And it sounds like they're just all casually riffing on the news or whatever. And then they get to the end and there's like 30 people that have helped with the episode, including 10 producers or whatever. And you sort of wonder with the whole outsourcing thing, if you could like find the right person somewhere who would just be like, okay, I'm not saying this would be like creatively fulfilling necessarily, but like, where you could find some sort of, what was the Amazon Turk or whatever, like,
Yes, right,
write
exactly.
me a script of every Wikipedia article that's not a direct copy of that, but just whatever of these food topics, and like, and then 2 hours later they send you back like 30,000 scripts for for your show, and then you like just read
Totally.
that, and then somebody listens
And
to it,
it's
they're happy, and like, I don't know. Yeah.
There was a show that I stumbled upon recently called Griswold the AI Reads Unusual Wikipedia Articles, and they are between 2.5 and 5 minutes, and it is pretty much just a voice, like they chose a voice somewhere to read articles. Now, I've listened to the introductory episode just to kind of hear the premise of it,
Yeah.
but I'm unsure like where the line is blurred here between plagiarism and actual like content that is totally okay to put in a podcast.
Yeah.
Because I would love to run these Notion scripts that I've made through Grammarly and have a plagiarism thing pop up and be like, hey, you're pretty good on this, or you should really change these words up or cite your sources or things like that.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
There's lots of podcasts that are like, I remember thinking that of Aaron Mankey's, like lore, like when you're referencing historical stuff that's obviously been documented. And I'm not saying he's plagiarizing things, like don't get me wrong, but just the idea of like relying on Wikipedia or other articles, and how much of well, you guys even on Tap too, when on your podcast, like you're referencing
Yep.
an article about beer, and
Hmm.
and you read part of it and then you talk about it a bit. So like at what point are you pulling in their content, so to speak, and not, and obviously you guys link to things, and like the web, I feel like the web version is fine, like I'm okay with that at the web level, but just like, even, I don't know, ethically or legally, I guess, even too, where how much is
Yeah.
too much?
To me, the legally part is probably the more fuzzy part. It's the ethical side of like, what is okay for you to do. And I think when it comes to being either critical or for sharing for the purposes of discussion, reading parts of an article, or reading an entirety of an article and citing the source, um, tends to be like your intent is better um, than the alternative, which is just like, here are facts about X topic, and
Yeah.
reading exactly what it is and not citing everything, or forcing folks to go to your website in order to get the links to where you pulled your stuff from and things like that.
Yeah.
That's tough. I don't know. It's something that like people think about for music all the time, and is very clear that like, oh, a music piece is a thing that if you put on a podcast, you got to ask for the rights for, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you have to do that. But when it comes to talking about an article or reading parts of an article, less so. I see a lot less folks talking about that. So
Yeah.
maybe the line isn't that blurred as much as I'm thinking of it, but for sure, this whole like having a computer voice read a Wikipedia article feels off to me. I'm gonna have to go through and like listen to these and see what it is that they're actually doing. I almost feel bad talking about it here because that's giving them a little bit of runway, because our audience is so powerful and so great that they'll their numbers are going to skyrocket here
Yeah.
because of it. But
It's
I,
something I know. I've heard folks, like I know Justin Jackson, his podcast, Build Your SaaS, which is like about their startup for podcast hosting, which is about Transistor.fm, who he hosts. So little plug there, and also whatever biases and things that I'm revealing there. But he'll try and do like, if he's quoting somebody else that he's listened to on a podcast, he'll always try and go out and get the audio and incorporate that into the show, and it makes like
sure.
definitely makes for a more interesting conversation. But there again, too, if you're you're quoting whatever Mark Maron's podcast, and you include like the juiciest part of the conversation so that somebody doesn't really have to go listen to it. Generally, I mean, I think he's erring on the side of like including the enough to like make you want to go listen to the rest of it, obviously. And so I would hope that someone like bigger, like a Mark Maron or whoever he might be including, is perfectly fine with that. It's just like a blog post about an article that you block quote something, and then people are encouraged to go listen to the rest of it or read the rest of it.
That's kind of difficult too, because it's like there shouldn't be this sliding scale of like, well, Mark Maron said it, then it's okay, or
Yeah.
it's not 99th percent invisible, so that's fine. But if it's you in your garage podcasting, you can't read that Wikipedia article. You can't do that. Like
Yeah.
that's straight up plagiarism. I don't know. I walked that line, I think, a lot on morning show when we had stuff on there. Um, Way more in the early days, we would read stuff that was probably straight from the article, or we would play parts of videos that were attached to articles, or play them from straight from YouTube.
Yeah.
There is no like iTunes algorithmic matching of songs to say like, whoa, 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 you can't play that, and then showing up in your inbox like it does with
Yeah.
YouTube or Twitch to say, whoa, you can't. It looks like you guys like read this straight off of a book. Like you can't do that. That's still in copyright. So
Which you wonder if that's coming, hey? Like at some point, someone's going to sue someone without knowledge of how things work necessarily is going to sue Apple for whatever, some podcast that they list that incorporates that.
yeah,
Apple's going to be motivated at least a little bit to incorporate some sort of algorithmic search through the stuff. But
yeah.
it is a little bit like the servers of old that would just list links to BitTorrent files, but they weren't actually hosting anything, so you can't sue the server, right? Like, how much is Apple culpable there? I don't know. And we're not lawyers, obviously. So,
Well, but I think it's just symptomatic of the internet. It's the internet don't care. It don't at all, because if things like Pinterest wouldn't exist if people cared about attribution, or people cared about content being stolen.
yeah.
Pinterest would not be getting funding or trying to go public or things like that. When you think about it, iTunes is kind of like that. They don't own any of the content. It's all creator owned, and it's being linked to in this database of podcasts. They likely aren't on the hook for any of that stuff. It's more just a symptom of things are being put out there and being submitted. And as long as they follow our community guidelines or our podcast guidelines, it's fine. Like you can put whatever you want on here.
Yeah. Because they
I don't
actually
know.
did have, as far as I know, last I heard, anyways, there is like literal humans who used to have to like listen to a podcast before it was approved in the Apple Podcast section. I can't imagine they've kept up that level of quality control to this point.
I felt that way about the app review process at Apple, and I super doubt that that's the case anymore. There is just way too much out there, and maybe to your point earlier, maybe it's a Mechanical Turk situation where like it goes through these automated checks first, then it hits the sort of like conveyor belt style. There's someone just looking at a bunch of different app icons and like pulling the ones out that are bad chocolate, or eating them, or whatever they do with apps that are rejected. And then it eventually will get to a code review where they have to like dig deeper into stuff. I don't know. I doubt that that's the case for podcasts anymore. It most definitely isn't the case for databases like Anchor, or what are the other ones? Breaker. Spotify, I think, is kind of the last semblance of that at the moment, where their database is super, super small, and you have to submit and wait and wait and wait and wait, and then eventually you'll get in. But that's I don't know really where to take today's special at the moment, and I am still continuing to be wary of doing it myself because of what we just talked about in terms of not knowing how long it's going to take, or it taking way too long for me, and to like the content is coming from not my head, it's coming from other sources, and I feel kind of bad for putting it out there without proper attribution, or spending 3 minutes total saying all of the links that I went and found, sentences here and there, or fun facts.
Well, I think that's where some of that would be, you wouldn't have to say it on the podcast. I think you can link it on the episode page, and that should be adequate enough. Like, not just legally, but even morally or whatever, I feel like. Because that's certainly even the bigger, like, when I think of a newspaper like the New York Times, like the Daily or whatever, when they are, or when they incorporate another podcast, or I think of Reply All on Gimlet Media, like sometimes they'll basically, like it's promotional stuff, but they're replaying basically someone else's audio as part of their show.
Right.
And there again, it's not like they just say, go check out whatever.com to listen to this new show. And then they're awful at like show notes and links and stuff on the actual website too. So I don't know. I mean, it still is a little bit of Wild West, and obviously you have to do what you have to do. But I think you could maybe reframing as like the weekly special is where it's a single episode a week, and then you do one or two. But even that, like a 5 to 10 minute episode once a week, like that's produced really well. I think that there's no reason why that couldn't go off just as well as a today's special. And then you're picking the best thing of that week that you like or whatever, and
Yeah.
running with it. So
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I think part of our 2019, we haven't really talked about this publicly, but rethinking where our shows are going on Good Stuff, rethinking what we want to accomplish personally, you and I, throughout the year in podcasting. I don't know if being alone in front of the microphones what I want to do and would get the most out of. I think it would be connecting with other folks on new shows and putting together stuff that I think is fun to do. Whether or not they end up being long-term projects or things that are just kind of like one-off fun things here and there, remains to be seen. But yeah, kind of looking forward to doing new stuff in 2019.
well, that's actually we could just spend a little bit of time on that. The idea, the sort of show makeup, the 2019 spring lineup, winter
spring,
lineup. What are we in? I don't know.
Yearly
It's winter here.
lineup.
But,
Starting lineup for your good stuff. It's not baseball anymore. It's hockey right now, right? Hockey,
season.
basketball. We're in the throes of the postseason in the NFL. Lacrosse probably plays year round, right?
I don't even know. It's Canada's national sport. I have no idea when. Oh, and actually, it just started. There's a local lacrosse teams or national or whatever. A professional.
There's Premier League. I know that's going on right now.
Why are we talking about sports?
MLS? I don't know. Sports,
So I'm looking at our lineup, anyways, of our shows that listed on Goodstuff.fm. I don't know if this is interesting to folks. I had actually recorded I was thinking I'm coming up with ideas for like a Lemon Productions, my business side podcast, just like answering quick questions about podcasting. That's like that idea, 5 to 10 minutes where I can just riff on answering a mythical question about podcasting, just to put, or a fake question, I guess, about podcasting, and then put it in a show so that I have SEO and whatever on different questions related to podcasting. But the idea of like, do you need a podcast network was one of the things that I sort of rummaged around in my brain about, like, would I advise myself now if I was starting out to like put a podcast network together? And I probably still would, because for me it's like you just said, like solo on the internet in 2019 is not what I want to be doing. I like to do it with community, with friends, folks who are into the similar stuff or whatever, trying new things together. But anyways, looking at our show lineup for right now, there's like, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 shows listed on our homepage, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them have not published in, well, I think other than maybe October, I guess, is sort of the last time. Morning Show did publish more recently, but it's now done officially. Non-Breaking Space Show is back in August. Like a lot of the shows last published in August. Myself, Dailyish, is I'm guilty with as well. And like with, say, 3 Guys, 3 Questions, it's someone else doing it. Like friends of us, ours obviously, Aaron and Andrew and Adam and folks, but they haven't published since August. And like there's no contract they're breaking, and there's no requirement we've set for them to have more shows with us or whatever. But it's just a discussion of like, what are we doing here? Because anybody who's looking at it might not see the dates, but if you're paying attention at all, you're like, that's kind of odd. This active network they keep tweeting about doesn't really have, other than Show Me Your Mic and Morning Show.
Right. Like why ask for money on Patreon, or why have us tune in to your Twitch channel if you're just going to show up every 2 months or put out a podcast once every month? And I get it. Like, that's, as a listener, as someone who listens to podcasts on other networks, as someone listens to a bunch of different shows, I am sort of caught off guard if they don't post in 4 months. I'm likely to unsubscribe. And so I think for us to expect that listeners are still there is a bit disingenuous on all those different shows, unless you say like, hey, we'll be back in, and then put a date on it. It's hard to expect folks to kind of stick around. And I know they did for a while when it came to the breaks that we would take on Morning Show every now and again. We used to do that show daily. It burnt us out really fast in like 4 months. We stopped for a few months and came back on a 3-day-a-week schedule. That worked for quite a while, and then we did this weird 2-day flip-flop back and forth until eventually we started doing one once a month towards the end of it. And that's just kind of how it went. And there were lots of folks who unsubscribed at that point, and I can't expect you to stick around if
Yeah.
your expectation of our show is that we post regularly or 3 days a week, or that was just the schedule you liked because it fit into your gym schedule or the days you would do laundry or whatever.
Yeah.
People grow to create habits, and I definitely have habits on podcast listening as well. When I don't get my Monday, Wednesday, Friday Waypoint Vice podcasts, I'm like, what is going on? Why? Where are the people talking about video games in my life right now? I need this now. And that's just like in between, getting ready in the morning time and going to work and being on my calls and stuff like that. Like it's just stuff I like to fit in because it makes me feel a certain way. And that's kind of it. So when it comes to like thinking about what shows we want to put on the network in 2019, for me it's more additive. I wouldn't ever like tell someone who hadn't posted a show in 4 months, well, even though you want to post a new one, I'm not going to let you like that. I would never be that way. I don't think that's not a great way to foster creativity or to like treat someone's side project typically, which is what it is for all of the shows on Good Stuff.
Yeah.
Treat their side project like it needed to be a full-time job, or that things with friends and family and real life stuff didn't get in the way to making that kind of thing happen. So I think it would be really great to add more to the network, but also, as shows come back, do our best to put ears in front of them and share stuff on Twitter and stuff like that. So that's my hope. The ones that do want to come back in 2019, you'll get shares. You'll get not shares of good stuff, but just a retweet here and there.
Those are way too valuable.
way too valuable.
Which it is a little bit of the chicken and egg thing, right? Because obviously, if you and I, as the founders, I don't know what to call ourselves, but the people behind Good Stuff,
just running it, yeah. That's such a loaded. That's such a loaded term. I hate that.
Yeah, but the chief bottle washers, whatever cliche. But
yes,
that idea, like if we were regularly every Monday, there was a Chris on this show, and every Thursday there was Kyle's thing on this show, and then Tuesday afternoon was this other thing. Like obviously that inspires people to want to be a part of a thing, and whether it's other shows that aren't even on the network yet that are somewhere else on their own. Or people who are themselves, like the three guys, three questions or whatever. And I know like so if just so we're clear, if somebody's listening to this and they're wondering, like Clockworks, for example, is a show about a TV series that's on hiatus right now. So obviously the podcast itself is on hiatus, and we're, like Kyle said, we're completely fine with that. We never entered into a contract with any of the podcasts saying, like I said, 50 episodes a year or you're out kind of thing. Because we would be the first people off our own network if we tried to do that.
Yep.
But it's something that I also aspire to, because I think and that's my hesitation in starting anything new right now, is I don't want to get into doing something. I want to be able to, whatever I start now, I feel like, like Show Me Your Mic or Dailyish, I have baggage there where I can just kind of like keep going with it for now until I figure out something better to do or focus to do. And yeah, like part of it would be like, maybe I should stop doing them completely, because then I would have that energy and time to go into this new thing with full bore or whatever. But it's also like, I know if I do that, it's that much harder to get back on the podcasting horse. And so I think, but I know that if I did something where a new Apple tech show or whatever the thing might be, some sort of focused topic, and I said every Tuesday is going to have an episode, I'm going to have this, and the format's going to be this, whatever, I want to be able to jump into that with both feet and just do it for the next year and then evaluate, not like try it for a month, give up, try something else, give up, that kind of on.
Totally. And that kind of stuff comes into consideration for me with today's special. Like I didn't want to record a January 1st and January 2nd episode straight up at the top, realize writing January 3rd's episode that this is garbage and I can't sustain this, and then quit again. I see that so often in podcasting, and it makes me, I don't know if it makes me jaded, but it makes me very wary at when I see other podcasters do this. The third time that you've launched your podcast and it's back for episode 2, like, I'm not going to share that. I'm sorry. Like, I want to be encouraging, and I want to make sure that you have the creative outlet that you want. But in reality, the this is a very touchy subject for me, but like, in reality, it feels like what you're trying to attain is some sort of um, recognition for what you've done. And when that recognition doesn't come, that's when you give up, rather than it being this thing that you find personal fulfillment in. And that is the sustaining factor episode to episode. It has nothing to do with recognition from listeners or outside folks or whatever when it comes to creative works and side projects. Obviously, if it's your full-time job, you got to stick to it. If you want to make money, you got to do it. But we're talking strictly in the whole, like, uh, personal side project sense of doing a podcast as a hobby, and of doing something that is hopefully something you enjoy, and not doing it just for the sheer factor of, like, maybe this will get noticed on the Dailyish podcast or whatever. Yeah, it's really touchy for me, and I am definitely not gonna name particular folks or podcasts who have done this in the past, but it's very much like the, hey, back for another blog post type thing.
Yeah.
I know it's been a while since I've posted, but, and then trying to lead into another thing. And then you see the next one in 2013, and then the next one in 2015. And then it's like this cycle of trying to get back at it at the beginning of the year feels way worse than seeing someone try for a really long time, not get noticed, and then somehow it clicks somewhere, and their blog about different Dr. Pepper flavors gets noticed on a podcast and blows up the next day. Like that kind of thing, it feels way more genuine and cool on the internet.
Yeah. So with the shows, I guess we just had word, Icebreaker, our hockey podcast, is going to be shutting down, and just the hosts are just going in a different direction and not wanting to do a podcast for right now, which is cool for them. And we were excited about it just because it's a different kind of topic. Sports podcast, obviously not something that's typically covered on a lot of tech networks.
I try so hard, Chris. I try to bring it in here, and you won't let me.
Yeah. I don't know. I know enough to be dangerous with talking sports stuff is the problem. I'm not like focused enough into any one thing. I'm the guy who can sit down and watch any sort of sporting event with somebody and enjoy it and have a good time, but I don't take that home with me and lose sleep over
the second you start putting names out there, I'm out. Like, eject.
Could you spell Dustin Bufflin for me, Kyle?
I sort of like, not the alliteration, but like the Dustin and Buffin. Like, it sounds like you're like a car washing place down here. Yeah.
That's a Winnipeg Jets player. Anyways, so and
come down to the jet wash. I'll wash your jet. I'm Dustin and Buffin your jet. It's fine.
So all that being said, if you're out there listening and you're like, you've got a podcast that you think might work on Good Stuff, then talk to us, because we're all ears.
We really, no, I mean, to be honest, like, we really are. I would love to, if you have a show, or you have an idea for a show, you want to bring it on, 100%. I would probably just say, pull the trigger. Let's do this. Like, let's set you up. Let's get the podcast going. Do you need artwork? Yes, no. When's the first episode? Let's do it. Yeah. And it really is, the way that we've set these things up, it really is that easy. It's like, you bring the idea, and as long as you are the purveyor of the idea and willing to put in the work for these things, there's no stopping you.
Yeah, we can enable. It's essentially in terms of setting up a new show for us at this point. This is one of the benefits of having a network, is the site itself is very easy to basically copy paste a show files into the network's the site, and then creating a new episode or a new show in our hosting side, and away we go. And so obviously we have some openings coming up. So
We should, that's actually a great idea. We should like make these empty slots on here and see if folks fill them up. Just like just little, hey,
Right.
your show here or
Yeah.
something to kind of encourage folks to get in here. Because I mean, yeah, to your point, Chris, Good Stuff Morning Show's gone. Today's special, likely, I think I'll just move into the retired category for now until we figure out what is going on with that. And I think the majority of these would probably benefit from some sort of tag on our website that says like inactive, because iTunes is doing that, or Apple Podcasts is doing that now, where it'll say like, usually this posts on Tuesdays, or it'll say inactive and it'll show the last episode that was posted there with the year. So, or the active dates. So like the morning show feed will show like 2014 to 2018 for the dates that it was posting.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cool feature and a good way to make it make more transparent that these shows are no longer posting, or that this is something old and you shouldn't expect anything from this feed anymore. But I don't think we do a great job of that on our website.
No, and it is kind of like just like a TV show. Obviously, like people watch, Friends or whatever, any series that's long since been done, and they still rewatch it. And like some podcasts are evergreen, and some are very topical and timely, and so you wouldn't really go back and listen. But like something like Morning Show or whatever, someone could stumble across it and be like, "That looks like a fun show," and then really like it, and then enjoy the 300 and whatever episodes, and that would be fine. Like there's nothing wrong, and we whether we decide to perpetually, for all our lifetime or whatever, or not, keep them on the web, like the MP3 files accessible or not, is one thing. But like as much as we can, anyways, I like to do that. I'm a big proponent of archiving stuff on the web, and even if it's not your most favorite thing in the world, you keep it alive as long as possible. Put it somewhere, throw it on a free SoundCloud account, if nothing else, just so it's somewhere archived.
Internet Archive, whatever. Yeah.
So the one I was going to say, the one folks you should go, I bug them every year and a half or so, is if you go tweet at what's their Twitter account here, the short game underscore twitter.com underscore short game. Go send them a tweet and say, hey, you guys should join Good Stuff, because I really want a good video game podcast on our network, and I'd love to be able to do it myself, but I know I don't have the playtime and the recording time on top of that to do it. And that's a great part. Either way, you should go listen to the podcast, but while you're there, just
see, that's the magic of Twitch, man. You can play a video game on there, and it's kind of like a podcast. People are listening to it live, like it would be something like this. And it's just, I mean, it is available as a video on demand, and it's as close as you get. So I do love shows sort of diving deeper into the idea of video games and mechanics and things like that. But Twitch is fun too. It's fun to just watch. I've been actually playing. This is unrelated, Chris. We can kind of side tangent onto a video game podcast here real quick. I've been playing on the Xbox No Man's Sky a little bit more with a friend who I had back in elementary school. But we have been kind of going through the campaign together and sort of like playing nightly and trying to get through the early parts of the game. And boy, it's a slog, but it is reminiscent of like co-op play, sort of like couch co-op play back way back, in elementary school days or middle school days. And it's fun. It's been really fun. And the pressure, honestly, the pressure to not podcast those kind of things or not stream those things is nice to have every now and then, where you're not being performative or like needing to watch what you say or whatever during an entire stream, because that can get tiring and isn't all that great.
Especially if it doesn't come naturally. Like I feel like for you and I, especially like the video game streaming,
bringing in someone else or whatever,
is a little isn't like my first language for sure. Podcasting, I feel like I can riff on that fairly easily, but Twitch or streaming a game while you're playing it. Like I was doing Celeste last night on my Mixer channel just to try it out from Xbox, and like I just forgot that I was even streaming, and luckily I didn't start complaining about my relatives or something on the thing.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's an interesting way to interesting muscle to have to I guess, use in that sense, even though it feels very similar to podcasting. But yeah,
Filling that dead air, you know.
yeah, dead air. There's a few moments of just me going, because you do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of dying in Celeste. I don't know if you've ever tried it yet, but it's just one of those games where it's just like brutal, but in a really beautiful way. You're just
Right.
beautifully dying over and over. It even has a little thing one time where it's like, don't worry about your die count. It just means you have more experience in life or something like that. And so,
Wow.
yeah, it's a punishing game, but lots of fun.
Yeah.
Which is free on Xbox right now if you're an Xbox Live person. Not that this is a video game podcast, but speaking of Xbox, let's thank a sponsor for this episode.
Mm-hmm. It's Xbox.
It's actually not Xbox, but it's Gumroad. They've been sponsoring Show Me Your Mic the last couple episodes and a couple more, and so we just want to thank them for doing that. First of all, I got an email from a listener. I think it was Jonathan, but I forget it if it is. My apologies, but just saying that he had heard the sponsor read in a couple episodes back, and someone else completely unrelated was selling something online, happened to be using Gumroad, and he was saying to me like he wouldn't have bought it, trusted the site because he hadn't heard of it before he heard about it on Show Me Your Mic. So just as a bit of like sort of meta commentary on sponsorship, I know you all listening out there desperately hope for sponsorship maybe in some form and believe in the idea of podcast sponsorship because you want to maybe use it to help fund your podcast or help fund your hobby. But it definitely works, and I just want to thank Gumroad for taking a chance on sponsoring a little show like this. And Gumroad is basically a service that helps people do more of what they love. It's just basically e-commerce, a super simple e-commerce for all types of digital content creators, podcasters, musicians, writers, teachers, and more. They've given out, so to speak, they've helped raise, I guess, sell $168 million worth of stuff that creators have been selling on their platform. And so they actually, if you follow Gumroad on Twitter, and I forget the owner's Twitter handle off the top of my head, I think it's SIHL, but they tweet out actually like very transparent about their growth, what they've sold, how many creators are on the platform. It's very interesting to sort of follow along with how the platform is doing as a whole. And excuse me. You can check it out. Gumroad.com obviously is the site to go check it out at. Gumroad.com/show me your mic is where you can go to if you're interested in signing up. That'll just show them that you came from us. It'll also give both of us, I think, a $10 bonus to sign up with.
Hot dog.
And so if you're interested in selling anything at all online, podcast episodes like we talked about would be one idea. Digital stuff, PDFs, instructions, courses, patterns like my brother-in-law does with Gumroad. Anything like that, basically, you can think of that you can sell digitally. It's great and a great service to use, and you can get set up in like minutes. And then just if you have an idea for a thing, like you should bundle up the morning show episode or music, and you could sell it as like a CD or whatever the kids call it these days off Gumroad. Gumroad.com/show me your mic. Check it out. And thanks to Gumroad for sponsoring this podcast, this episode.
Speaking of Xbox, Gumroad is currently selling an entire game development platform on Gumroad for $49 a year. So you can do recurring stuff. That's pretty cool. You can get Unreal Engine Deep Elder Caves, which look like a bunch of lily pads and light beams and things like that. some soldiers, medieval warriors, health kits, animated weapon for Unreal Engine. Just some really cool things. There are 16 products. I'm sending you this for that ad read.
And actually, I said digital stuff, but actually physical stuff too. They can actually help you track your shipping and stuff too. I'm just seeing which is something that I have no interest in doing because I don't know how to create things outside of a computer. I guess maybe Lego. I'm actually, I don't know if you heard, Kyle, but I'm huge on TikTok with a Lego video. I've got like over 5,000 views on a Lego video that I put up.
Okay. All right.
So I'm moving all my stuff. This is actually the last podcast I'm doing. Everything
Yes.
I'm doing now is over on TikTok. So if you can find me there, I don't know how to do it, but
we could do just a TikTok focused podcast. Is it about clocks? That's what Clockworks is about, I thought. So
yeah,
what would we be talking about? Yeah.
Anyways, thanks to Gumroad. Craziest, funnest sponsor read. Before we end, I wanted to talk a little bit about just a Castaways Club update. So castaways.club is where you can go. That's a sort of community membership site that I'm building for podcasters. So folks who probably, if you listen to this show, you're interested in podcasting, you've already started podcasting, you're just like Kyle and I talked about, your solo in your basement or your third floor mansion, whatever it happens to be, no judgment on your housing, obviously, but you're solo podcasting and wanting to sort of find some other folks who are interested in podcasting, get some tips, get some encouragement, get some, this isn't a sales pitch. I'm just trying to riff on what I think in my head of what it's going to be, because it's still something that's being built. Any of that kind of stuff sounds interesting to you, Castaways.club. There's an email sign up form you can link to and throw your email address in and get updates on the service. There's a Twitter handle, Castaways. What did I get? Twitter.com/
If anything, if
Castaways
for
Club.
some reason you
No, that's not.
aren't attracting podcasters, I think this is a great way to maybe like reconnect everyone who's ever been on Survivor
Pivot.
into some sort of discourse forum, so that they can all kind of like get to know each other better. I think that would be just if you're looking to pivot.
If it doesn't work out, that's what I'll pivot to.
Yeah.
I was really proud of myself in a nerd way. So I'm decided on using Patreon. We talked about that last episode. I decided on using Patreon to power the membership sort of it. It needs to have some sort of mechanism for a fee, and I didn't want to have to worry about setting up like a what's not simple. What's the Stripe
Memberful type thing, or Stripe,
Memberful, all that stuff. Like there's just multiple points of entry or breakage there, and Patreon seemed like the simplest way. Although it does feel a little more like the onus is back on me to like build stuff, create stuff to like put out to the patrons. But I think in the wording and stuff that I've got going for it, it'll make sense. And somehow managed to figure out the API connections to be able to run a Discord server, which Discord is like instant messaging chat. That's what we use for good stuff. Sort of like live, like Slack, and also Discourse, which is more forum software. Both are set up with some sort of API connections that I managed to not break so far. So Discourse is running on a DigitalOcean, instance. Discord is running on its own server. They do that for free for you. So there'll be both those components. And the reason why for both of those, this is actually what I sent out in the last email, which is on the site. I don't know if you have thoughts about this, but I like the idea of instant messaging, like what we use Discord for with good stuff. Even it's just like, and you and I chat back and forth on there. It's basically like our instant message forum, I guess, or whatever. And there's listeners or patron supporters of Good Stuff, and myself and other shows on Good Stuff that are supporters that pay into that. And so then they're allowed into the Good Stuff Discord. And that's all fun. But what I miss out of that is some of the longer form ongoing discussions, because it's kind of just a flow of information. It doesn't have threading. It's not very easy to go. If someone asks a question in the morning, then by the nighttime, let's say, if a bunch of people have responded to that and someone asks something else, you kind of miss that first conversation that happened. And so I like the idea of sort of balancing both, where you have longer form discussions in Discourse on the forum side, and then, hey, I need some help with this thing I'm doing right now more on the Discord side. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And it's tough because as someone who would participate in a group like that, both of those things can potentially scare me away. The long form stuff could scare me away because it feels like, oh man, I don't want to put my hat in the ring here for whatever they're talking about, because I'm afraid of being, I don't know, laughed out of the room or whatever. And then great, I need to show my face again in some other thread. There's a little less risk when it comes to Discord, the sort of like instant message service. And that is a little bit, as a strictly computer worker and someone who is on here 24/7, it's a lot easier for me to catch up on that type of stuff. And like I said, a lot less risk in terms of just saying something and then like, it'll scroll past later. Right. if I sounded dumb. But I guess I don't know. I think it's good to kind of have both if you're going to, so that you can kind of foster some of those conversations. And of course, like maybe link back to one another, where you can say like, hey, we're going to take this discussion offline. We're going to take it over to Discourse so that these will live for a little bit longer. And then I assume also on Discourse, you can keep threads active and archive them as, you know, they sort of like are done with whatever it is you guys are talking about. If it's a monthly challenge or if it's something to that effect.
Yeah, it's like, so I've used it now on a fan site for a band called Gang of Youths, and with my friend Matt, and so I helped him set that up. And I wouldn't have really been as keen on it, except having experienced it now again. It's kind of like the old school forum thing, where it's safe to leave it and come back to it later. And the way Discourse, it's better than the old forum software, that's for sure, in that it does a nice job of presenting what you've missed, and then you can quickly mark it as read if you don't want to go into it. It's not a topic that's interesting to you, but it's easy to dive in, catch up, and then throw your own 2 cents onto a conversation as well. And then, yeah, the ability to link to things. Obviously, this one will be locked behind a Patreon login and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
With
not
that
public.
API connection you were talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Super
Yeah.
APIs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But either way, you could still save your own. Like you could link to a conversation and save that for later or whatever. And there's some gamification stuff, a little like nothing cheesy and over the top, but it just neat little like built-in hooks into Discourse where, hey, you've now, because you've chatted this or sent us any messages, we've now your trust level has gone up this level, and you can add some of those little interesting little hooks in there as well to sort of reward folks who are a part of it a little longer. They can get a little emoji next to their name or whatever, those kind of things as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just personalize it a little more than just like you're just another name on our Discord server. And actually intentionally on the Discord side, from sort of learning from our Good Stuff Discord, where I thought it'd be great to have topics for everything or channels or whatever for almost anything and everything, just so that people would keep it organized in the conversation. But it looks overwhelming, and also when one conversation has 3 messages in it, it looks like, oh shoot, I shouldn't say anything in here, but the other thread actually has thousands in it. That's overwhelming to jump into.
Right.
And so very intentionally on the Discord side, it's just like a general discussion. This is sort of my idea anyways, general discussion, and then like I'm going live or I need help with something discussion, and then a couple of voice channels for people to use if they want to have a sort of bigger voice conversation inside Discord. And that's it. Like, not break it out into every single topic and show and whatever, and sort of focus that energy on the discourse on the forum side, so that I feel like those conversations can then are more searchable, more easier to digest a year later if you wanted to go back and figure out which mic did they recommend for this purpose or whatever, and those kind of technical discussions are
to that point, more searchable. That makes it far more useful as like a knowledge base for folks who maybe just join 2 years after you start this thing and it's really taken off, and now you can kind of go back and say, oh man, what was that thing that they recommended for the cloud lifter, or was it the Fed head, or what was the thing that they recommended for raising the gain?
Raising the gain. There we go. So it's going to launch soon. I sort of figured out this, or thought of this idea of like a founding member. I think that's the right terminology I'm using. Like, so for the first 20 folks who sign up on Patreon, there'll be you'll be able to choose a certain level, and then that automatically assigns you a certain level in the Discord server, and that kind of stuff, and just kind of like a little bit cheaper rate than what will likely be the final sort of going rate. And obviously we'll see how that all goes and how that plays out, but it's definitely nothing to get rich on, but I also want to make sure I cover costs and that it doesn't become a drain on me financially, because I'm going to have to put time into it, which I want to do, but obviously have to pay bills and feed my family. So yeah.
I think thinking about the financials and kind of having a plan for that is good to do up front. Obviously that's, whatever, business 101. I'm bad at it, but it's more like, had we thought about what Good Stuff cost us out the gate, I think we would have done things differently going into it. And we're now kind of at a point where the only thing we're paying for is hosting and our domain name every year, and that's kind of it. Everything else is paid for, so or is zero cost, which is great. So we're running sort of at like minimal amount at the moment, and trying to find a way to balance that on your side with this new club. I think that's a good way to go about it, because it makes sure that that's going to be sustainable going forward. Whether or not there's 10 people there, or if it goes down to 5 people, then you have to say like, well, we have 3 months of runway on this, and that's kind of it. If I don't ramp up my marketing efforts on this, or if nobody signs up in that time, then I have to shutter it. And just letting people know. I think there will be interest too in the folks who are joining this at this sort of in beginning level, founders level, is going to be that they want to hear about how that's going. They want to see what more can I be doing to try and help this if they get a lot of stuff out of it? So that's all in good faith, hopefully, with the folks that are joining.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see where it goes. It still is a project that, like I'm trying to build in the open kind of thing. And so, and walk through. And so hopefully folks who are interested in that obviously follow along and join as they want. And then the issue comes like you reference our Good Stuff servers costs and stuff. And like we have my Patreon, patreon.com/iChris is like a personal Patreon campaign I've been running for a while. And that has basically been a lot of the funding that's helped pay for our Good Stuff along the way. And folks can transition to the patreon.com/goodstuff thing. But that is right there is the issue with Patreon that kind of comes up is like, so someone's supporting me, let's say $10 or $5 or whatever a month on my personal Patreon, they would also like access to this podcasting thing because they're really keen on that. Do they stop and then I require them to join? Normally, like my nature is to be like, it's okay, I'll just give you access because you're already supporting me over here. No point in whatever. But that's sort of shooting myself in the foot, but also, I don't know. Yeah, it just becomes complicated and
yeah. Well, and to that point, like it makes it so like why even have all those API things hooked up and things like that? Like you may as well let folks join the automated side of it and then gain them access to side project stuff, things that are good stuff related or things that are daily-ish related and whatnot. That seems like a much easier way to do it rather than sort of the opposite where it's like, hey, you're already supporting me. Don't worry about that. I'll find a way to create a fake user so that you can go over here and sign into your new discourse thing. And I would encourage you to do the former rather than the latter.
Yeah, I think so. Keep it separated, as the offspring said. All right. On that note, I think we should probably end the episode.
Well, you got pizza, so that's
pizza.
Good for you. And I'm gonna be over here just by myself. Great, good. This is really good.
You can start a noodle club. Noodles.club.
I could.
It's probably available. Probably not.
Noodle.club. If Noodle.club is available, get on it, internet. Hover. No, sorry. What was that? Pork bun.
Oh, the joys of porkbun.com is where you can register a domain name, and if you use code SHOPTALK.
Not a sponsor. Where's it? I have my dog clicker now. Chris, down. Get down.
That's gonna be. I'll be like fading out of editing the podcast from when all of a sudden this clicker is gonna shoot my ear. Okay. Castaways.club is where you can go if you're interested in what we were just talking about. Goodstuff.fm/SMYM is where you can find this podcast. And of course, Goodstuff.fm is where you can find a few podcasts that are still going right now, and maybe others will show up.
Noodle.club is available for $773 a year. So if Noodle.online is available $546 a year. NoodleTube, $21. Got it.
See, I think there's your new show. Is just Kyle reading off domain names that he might buy. That's Kyle reading domain names podcast, episode number 635.
I'll take it.
If you'd like to be interviewed on this show, I don't know why you wouldn't. Goodstuff.fm/SMYM/ask is where you can find out how to do that, and also where you can find out how to send in questions for the show on Twitter, etc. And we'd be happy to take your questions and discuss them on future episodes of the show. If you want some podcast editing help or consulting, I'm available. lemonproductions.ca/hire. And Kyle's, you've got a show on beer if folks want to check out over at the Jobby Job.
Podcast.untapped.com it's that show and this. Those are the only ones that I'm on. And I really I play the foil on both, really. I'm not the host. I'm just sort of like I'm the funny guy. Yeah, I'm the jester.
Add the puns.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it. Noodle.live, $1.99 a year.
There you go.
That's not a bad one.
What is your domain name right now? Is
coldpizza.online is my current website, and I'm looking to change it. Noodle.live sounds pretty good. I may have to get that for $1.99 a year.
All right. Thank you for listening, everybody. Please, if you're going to do anything podcasting related to this between now and the next episode, go leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast. Doesn't have to be this one, but it can. And just to thank a podcaster for doing what they're doing. And also send out a tweet with a link to an episode that you like from their show, because that also helps let other folks know about the podcast that you like.